Yeah, big stories.
Funny, all these what's the word I'm looking for? Serendipitous little stories for me with Blacken.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's how we kind of relate. Don't sound like a hippie on your podcast or anything, but there's this auspicious level of just synchronicity, and like just chatting to so many people over this weekend just reconfirms that people start telling me about the dreams that they've had leading up to it, and feeling this country kind of speaking to them, or feeling the spirit of this place speaking to them before they come.
Hey, how you going? My name is Lachlan Watt, and music is my life. I need to be up in a matter of hours to head to the airport, so let's get this going. I'm off to the UK for Damnation Festival this weekend, where I'll be seeing a ton of incredible bands such as Deaf Heaven, Gayria, Napalm Death, Conjurer, Betrayal of Guilt, Amun-Ra, High on Fire, Anal Nathrak, Perturbator, Pig Destroyer, and unfortunately not Crippling Alcoholism because they blew it and had to pull out of the festival. But I should be coming back with a few decent chats in the can for future episodes of the pod. Now, this week's episode you're about to hear is with Pirate, and if you've been following the Blacken Open Air arc of the podcast over the last month, or if you've ever had anything to do with the Alice Springs metal community, this is a name you'll be familiar with. Pirate is a great friend of mine that I have shared a special kinship with for 12 years. He's truly a one-of-a-kind individual who bleeds for music, and in this episode, you'll get to find out why he is called Pirate, how his DIY metal crew, the Black Wreath, got together, the challenges faced, and the brutal realities of bringing such a huge event as Blacken Open Air to the middle of nowhere, how Earthless ended up playing at Uluru the night before this chat, and much, much more. Now, we actually filmed this out in front of a little sand dune at Ulara, so if you've just been listening to the podcast, I'd like to remind you that a video version exists on YouTube, and I think this would be a pretty good one to watch because it actually looks pretty damn special. My name is Lachlan Watt, music is my life. Please consider giving this podcast a like, comment, follow, review, or a rating, sharing it with your friends. Anything would be so sick. I'd love it. And now I give you my conversation with Pirate. Cheers. You are incredibly visually minded, Pirate. Such an eye for production and the visual spectacle. To be honest, if there was anyone else saying, "No, fuck recording out the back of the hotel, we're going to go drag it out into nature," I'd be like, "No, we're not." But I guess believe in you, so
thanks, man.
We got it done. Insane.
Yeah, well, it's a big part of where we are, Very blessed to live in the desert, and it's part of everything I do, and I like to feel at home here, so.
Well, congratulations, man. You fucking pulled it off. You've made history. How are you feeling today?
Cheers, brother. Yeah, it's a lot to process, I suppose. I feel like I was feeling pretty emotionless last night. Just it's been such a slog. It's particularly the last 11 days that we've been out on site, but even before that, I haven't really had a day off in the last couple of months. Just kind of been running, obsessed with this, workload that I've put myself into.
Mm.
And when it all, happens last night, the moment happens, and then there's kind of this feeling of you're allowing the busy brain to sort of dissipate, and then you kind of, suddenly surprised by this feeling of what am I and what's next? And, I'm not quite used to just sitting without this urgency and this thing that I'm constantly feeling like I'm approaching.
Mm.
But today I woke up and I was a bit more rested, and I got, I don't know, a full sleep last night for the first time in weeks.
Nice.
And I was just standing out in the sun and feeling feeling the warmth and the wind, and one of the guys from Grant Bjork comes out and just said some really heartfelt things, and that really choked me up a bit. And it's really nice to feel seen. He said, I see what you do, and I see why you do it, and that's kind of that means a lot, that people can kind of I feel like it's recognized.
I think I kind of heard similar sentiments from a few people last night, just understanding, the magic of this place. And what did Izzy from Earthless say on stage last night? This is a place of dreams, and now I get it, or something like that.
Yeah, well, I feel that way all the time, just being out here. And I feel like very blessed in my life, and connections that I have, and experiences that I've had that have kind of woken me up, and so I guess sometimes I feel like I'm just here to express something that's already here and is coming through.
Yeah, so speaking of that awakening angle, tell us about your story and how you kind of became set on this path with the Black Wreath originally.
Well, I think like a lot of people that find themselves in the extreme music world, heavy music world, we find that catharsis in it when we're young. And I had a pretty, there were elements of my upbringing that were very, normal and wholesome and beautiful, and I've got an amazing family, and there were also elements that were extremely traumatic, and I had some pretty life-altering experiences quite young, and felt a bit different from my peers. I'd been through experiences that I didn't really relate to other people about, and so finding catharsis through music, I guess, was like something that allowed me to find my own voice, and feel like I was heard and understood and part of a bigger web, a bigger community than the human I felt I was supposed to or expected to be as a young person. And so then, as I became a performer and started jamming and all of that stuff, I guess I just wanted to, be that next stepping stone and pass that to other people. And growing up in Alice Springs, I didn't know how to do it. I hadn't been surrounded by much, opportunity for music or anything like that. And like, it was a rough place to grow up, and we were just like, it was finding the balance between creativity and self-destruction as we go through, and like it's probably a very equal balance, to be honest. And looking back, I'm like, no regrets or anything, but like we weren't doing much. We would jam and get blackout drunk and wake up the next day and like listen to the recordings and go, oh, there's a song in there, I can't remember playing it, but like let's figure that one out, And
which was your first band?
It was called Angry Pirate. And it was a bit of just a fucking silly joke. That was, with my brothers.
So did your name Pirate come first, or the band name?
The band name, and then
you just took that on?
Not intentionally, just friends started calling me it, and it just got to the point where I'd ring someone up and, I'd be introducing myself, I'd be like, hey, it's Nick, and they'd be like, who? And I'd be like, oh, fucking Pirate. And they go, oh, yeah. So it just, started getting bigger than I was. And
I never think of you as Nick.
Yeah, I know. Saying that on the podcast to the world.
But I do get asked often, like, is his name actually Pirate?
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, it's Nicholas.
I got many, responses to funny questions like that. Yeah. What's your legal name? I'm breaking the law. My family go between the two sometimes. But I feel more comfortable. I feel more seen when I'm called
Pirate. When you're Pirate.
Yeah, it's my name. It's been that way for over 20 years now.
I think I overheard someone at the festival on the weekend say, what the fuck is Jack Sparrow doing on stage right now?
Yeah, I've actually spoken to a few, doppelgangers over the years about maybe like starting up a, Jack Sparrow support group where people that, fucking get called these cliche, predictable names all the time, can amalgamate and just fucking roll our eyes together and go, come on, guys, come up with something more original. I was called Pirate and I was in the band in 2004, which was before any of those fucking Disney movies. So, if anything, Johnny Depp might stole my shit.
I feel like we have a lot of similarities in just like our life paths and our passions and interests. But like you said, with just having no one to really look to here, there's no one else doing this shit in Alice before you. Like I had a lot of people to look up to in Brisbane and then later Melbourne with people that were already heavily involved in music. But you just started it all yourself, like the studio, the label.
Well, don't get me wrong. Like there were people playing in bands and metal bands, and like there is a thick, culture, like a little underground culture of that in Central Australia. And I grew up like looking up to bands like Nocturnal, who had gotten all this like national coverage and were playing big festivals and touring with Limp Bizkit and fucking Black Flag or Henry Rollins, I think it was. And there's even more old school heads like Craig from Nocturnal was in
Sorbs,
early death metal bands, cats like Sorbs.
I'm surprised I didn't see him on the weekend.
He's gone into a bit of hermitude, I think.
Right. But the actual wreath itself, tell me the story of the wreath.
Oh man, it's a multi-dimensional story, I suppose. A black wreath is something that's laid on the graves of dead soldiers, and the first image just became really powerful, and I started seeing it presented in these different ways. And some of the early shows after we designed it, we were like putting it on TVs with static in the background, and I just thought it had this like power about it. I don't know why. And then I think it was after Mescaline experience where I started to see it rotating and and interwoven, and it had this symmetry and like and the mescaline was at the prelude to an ayahuasca trip that happened in mid-2011, and I came out here after living in Adelaide for a few years, looking after my father, who was not doing well at the time. I'd moved down there to support him, and he had quite a long mental health story through most of my life, and the ayahuasca experience was life-changing. My brother flew me up here for it, and
it kind of lit the way, right?
Yeah, totally. Everything after for the next 6 months just kind of seemingly fell into place, and it felt like quite a magical time.
I love how similar that is to my acid story out here in the desert. With just we're already on the path, but it just kind of reaffirmed that it was the right one.
Totally. And so that interwoven vine in here is kind of a representation of the cappy vine from the ayahuasca plant as well. And the numerology in there, it's the meaning of those numbers changes over time, but originally it was 3 bands. The original Black Wreath, Unholy Trinity as we called it, for another heavy metal cliche. But the kind of meaning behind it was that there were 13 members in the band and there were 12 spikes, and so every one of us individually was not represented on there, but the other 12 were. And if we act selflessly towards the community, then you have 12 other people doing the same towards you, and that we can unite and build something bigger than our individual selves. And so the label started with those 3 bands, and we run around town.
And that was Miasma, The Horror, and
Uncreation.
Uncreation,
yeah. So we started scavenging and built this backyard studio. This is all over the space of a few months, and like in the back of Tully's house, where we'd all grown up jamming. Tully's house, the Lowsons, his parents were the cool hippies. His dad was a drummer. They all let us smoke pot, and they had a jam room at the back, and we just it was just his bedroom was a demountable, and we called it the Germ, and it was chaos. It was just scribble graffiti art all over the walls and throwing each other through the hopefully not asbestos but possibly was, and just like rat bag days, Yeah. So yeah, we built the studio, recorded the first EP, 2 tracks each, and then I knew 11 was coming up, and that just went, being that's the day, and so we started. I've got a bit of a media background, I was working in bush community television and stuff like that, and I decided we'd do this live stream, and got a venue, and then we rang up a venue in every capital city, and arranged to like live stream it while there was another show going on, because there was a lot of shows going on 11, a lot of metal gigs, and so a lot of the venues took it on, and we were just like going, hey, we're out here, we're doing it, and they picked up a bit of like national press, like the music and stuff. We're like, it's an Australian first, Alice Springs live streaming to across the country, and
because the Blacken originally was live streamed, hey.
Yeah, so the first 3 I think we did the live stream, and that was it was originally called Black and the Globe, and it was just kind of an extension of that idea that like, how do we make enough noise that
the world notices.
Yeah.
So
totally.
I noticed it because King Parrot were headlining the first one.
Yeah.
And I think my band at the time had just broken up, and so we weren't going to be doing a bunch of stuff that I'd been saving money for, and me and the drummer were like, hey, we should just go up to this festival, go for a bit of a trip instead. And yeah, that was my introduction to this whole thing, and then we connected and started coming back every year, and used to get me to MC the festival.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did a terrible job at that. I hadn't had that, talking in front of festival crowd experience yet, and feel a bit cringe looking back at that. But it was just
hard, man. I feel the same.
It was it's pretty chaotic, but a lot of fun. Those early Blackens.
Yeah.
And it slowly went from the like a smaller pub in town, the Gap View, then you upgraded to the.
We started at the old RSL pub.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry.
With the big outdoor stage. It was always outdoors, and it always had the mountain as a backdrop. So it started as the 1-dayer. We did 3 there, and then moved up to a 2-day thing at a bigger venue with the adjacent campground. So that started to attract small numbers of interstate people to come out and check it out, the hardcores.
And was getting out to Ross River and getting somewhere more remote always part of the concept?
It was entirely the concept. Yeah, it was like. That all kind of started. That's a really auspicious bit of country, and I feel very sometimes strangely connected to that place. Like some of the most life-changing experiences of my life have happened there, including the ayahuasca in mid-2011, followed up by all the wide open space festivals, which used to happen annually in that location, and that was a beautiful festival, more of a hippie doof / folk and world and all that sort of stuff. But they'd always do try to provide a representation of the Alice Springs community, and so we often got to play that as well as a death metal band, normally on the Friday night, which would be a fun, cathartic way to kick it off. And so Uncreation played 3 of them, and it was really eye-opening to see, like, for the first time that, a festival isn't just this thing that happens and you go there and you buy a ticket and you just, you don't know the work that goes into it, and, the government's putting it on or some stuff or whatever. It just started as this concept of these local fellas that, from the doof scene, and they just said, we're going to do this, and you go out there and you're like, wow, like you can see the work that goes into building all the structures and things. And obviously, it was like, probably, I think 2012 was the first one that we played as Uncreation. I've been going there since 2010 as an attendee. And maybe that location, my guitarist either forgot his guitar months or broke a string, I can't remember. And the organisers were like, oh, go hit up the Southeast Desert Metal guys. And I'm like, who the hell is that? Like, and like, so we went and borrowed a guitar off these shy, fellas from Ginger Porter community. And then we watched them play, and they were just like shredding and like, epic leads and just like amazing light finger-work and precision. And and that, I met them properly there, and me and Chris particularly, the front man, just formed a real bond, and like I've had a friendship and a amazing working collaborative relationship ever since, on that same piece of ground.
They've played every single Blacken, haven't they?
The only band now that's played every single one, and they're a huge part of it for me because we're on our own country. That particular location there, that's Auntie Kamara Wallace's homelands, and she was one of the most influential people in my life over the last few years. I got to learn so much about the country and the dreamings, and I was very blessed to have that relationship through that band. And we made that documentary for the ABC about the band and about Chris and her's relationship and how she informed his music by growing him up with Dreaming Stories and AC/DC, And so I feel very also protective of that space because it's it's her country, and there's this Seven Sisters dreaming story that runs through there, and all this beautiful allegory about the what we know as the Pleiades star system, and I see her up there now. Every time I look up, there's Auntie, and so it's a very, very sacred place.
It's beautiful. Speaking of sacred places, Earthless, in the shadow of the rock, when did the whole concept arrive of actually having bands play out? I know you've spoken about it previously, and years Blackens before, you'd spoken to me about how you would love to get bands out here one day for like a Blacken pre-party, but I think the idea was always that they were just going to be in the pub. I think that's how I remember you sort of explaining it to me originally, that it was just like where Melchiora played the other night, that you'd have a couple of bands out here.
Yeah, possibly.
But it obviously evolved into something far greater.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, we've sent buses up via, from Adelaide, and just to kind of add to people's experience of coming out for Blacken.
I think the last Blacken I went to, maybe in 2018, or maybe it was 2017, or maybe it was both. I can't remember, but
you did the 2018.
Yeah, we flew straight into Uluru, and
I mean, some people only come to the Northern Territory once in their life, and there's this assumption that Alice Springs and Uluru are very close.
Really close. Everyone, I keep encountering that, and people are like, I thought it was just down the road.
Yeah, and obviously, it's a global icon, and it's beautiful to be able to celebrate that and platform that and share that with people that travel here. And so we started trying to include it as part of an itinerary for traveling bands, and then it was just a few years ago, my mate Greg introduced me to Earthless, and as soon as I heard that song, I was just being
There's one of our headliners.
Here's an idea.
Yeah.
What's that?
There's our headliner.
Yeah, and it was just it wouldn't work as a concept, I don't think, on its own if we just put, a soul concert on and brought them out here.
Yeah.
But, if we attach it to Blacken, I mean, you've already got hundreds of people traveling from around Australia to come out here, then we could do it if we get the word out early enough, and we can send people to Blacken and they can go back that way, or vice versa.
It seemed like there was a few people that came just for last night, though.
Yeah, definitely. There was whole groups that had just come.
Was it
for
the
last
whole
night.
group with the identical cats?
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd seen them at Blacken.
Yeah. No, I guess the 3-day camping festival isn't for everybody,
Yeah.
And there's definitely this one was a bit more, clean and classy, I suppose, in a way that we had.
Yeah, if you wanted the option, otherwise you could sleep in the dirt still, like all the bands that came on the bus did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're keeping it real, eh? Coming out from a festival. And
I had
that vibe down.
Actually, had a moment when we were helping Tristan set up his tent yesterday or the other day, where I was kind of wish I was out here in the muck with everybody.
Yeah, no, I felt the same.
But then I really appreciated that shower and solid 7 hours sleep in a nice, warm, clean bed last night. So probably would have regretted it if I went the other way.
Totally.
Creature comforts.
I think I was averaging about 4 hours sleep for the last 11 days, sometimes 5 hours. The other night I got 2 hours. We drove down here. Don't know what day it is, but the night before the concert, we arrived at 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. my phone's ringing, and I'm back up, coordinating, getting the people over for the sunrise base walk. And so yesterday I was shattered and struggling to get through. But
So
Yeah.
you had to jump through a shitload of hoops to make last night happen. Tell us about the challenge of convincing everyone involved to let a bunch of like rock and metal bands come and play in essentially a national park, right?
Yeah, so we're just on the outskirts of the national park.
Yeah. So this is private property where we're at right now.
It's quite complicated, and I'm not going to try to explain how it all runs because it's I'll probably get something wrong, and
Yeah.
it's also probably sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I think people should know more about it and encourage people to look into it and whatever. I know it's just sold as well recently. So. You know, it's the national parks over there. You know, we're in the township of Yulara at the moment doing this. You know, I invited Earthless to do this, you know, sometime last year, and you know, throwing shit at the wall. I had no idea if it was possible. I put the offer to them, started negotiating with their agent, and saying, you know, we got this concept, like let's make some magic happen. And you know, I've got this connection with Jeremy Whiskey because we've, you know, been mates for a long time.
He's from out here.
Like Wanangu guitar shredder. He lives in Indulkina, which is just, you know, back towards the highway and just across the South Australian border. But Pitchinjara, Yunkanjara, man, this is a very sacred place for a lot of the regional, you know, people from all across these lands, APY lands and Nganjara lands and Anangu, man. So yeah, I've got this amazing relationship. He was actually the opening. His band was the opening act when we did our 11-11-11
Yep.
label launch and whatever. So he's been a huge part of it. He's just like always. I've always looked up to him as a player. He's just mind-meltingly impressive on every instrument. Natural. He has so much like heart and soul in the way he performs.
Yeah, he's like indigenous Joe Satriani or something.
Yeah, yeah. And he's a showman too. You know, like he's so shy. Like, he won't like me saying that.
Yeah.
But he's so humble, you know, until he's on stage, and then he can send it and perform and like, yeah, and like, you know.
I love seeing that, especially with Southeast, because those guys are so quiet and shy, but then when they play and Kerry's like doing the getting the crowd pumped up kind of shit, and you're like, fuck yeah, go for it, dude.
Yeah, Kerry's awesome. Yeah, he's a great front man. You remember that crowd? Did you see the stage dive that he did when we did the Cosmic Psychos gig years ago?
Was that did they play at Blacken?
It was at
I don't think I was up here.
No, it was at the St Kilda. Was it the SB?
Yeah.
Like sold out show in the Gershwin room, and like
So I don't think.
and like
I
the
came
crowd
to that,
just like forced him back up on the stage while he's a big bloke,
Yeah.
and while the Psychos were playing, and we're grabbing him by the legs and we lifted him up and we crowd surfed him to the stage, and he's just like looking around on the stage and he's just like, I got to do it. So he just runs out and sends it, and yeah, this epic dive, and the crowd caught him and loved it. So good. So that was my starting point, was like having this chat with Jeremy. I've mentioned it to him over the years that, you know, this is a thing that we should attempt to do, and like you know, you could potentially collaborate with Earthless, and you know, for me that's really beautiful that, you know, can give more underexposed artists like a platform to, you know, get their music out there, because he's so freaking talented, just gifted. And and so that's my starting point. And then I'm like, Jeremy, who do we speak to make this happen? And he put me onto someone. And at first I was just getting brick wall, like people were ignoring me. It's like, you know, this place is like, you know, there's a 1-800 number to somewhere in Sydney, and you're writing emails and no one's replying, and it's just like, you know, so I start with him and he puts me onto a real human. And when I eventually got that human on the phone, and I couldn't stop talking about the concept for 20 minutes, he's like lit up and he's like, that sounds epic. And then he put me onto the general manager of the whole place. And we went from there. And and there was like a lot of obstacles as far as like, you know, they're very protective of the image of Uluru itself for good reason, you know. And so the Uluru Media Department have a lot of protocol around how the image of Uluru is presented. You know, for example, you're not allowed to put text over it and things like this. And in our original trailer, we had accidentally done that. And so we'd send it in for approval, and then you'd wait some time, and then they'd get back to you and say, you've got to change this and this and this.
Yep.
And another part of like doing this as well, which is, you know, a good synergy with why I do it and what their mission objective is as well, is like, letting the Anangu speak for what this place is, because, you know, Uluru, there's a lot of misconceptions and ideas floating around globally. It's a global icon, and, you know, it's whatever your beliefs are, you know, chakra of the earth, this, you know, shelver crystal, that, you know, whatever. You know, there's been people like from overseas that have come down here and like written their own scriptures, like religious text over the top of ancient sacred art. That's like one extreme example, and then, you know, and it's just like, yeah, like, for like I say, for good reason. They want to tell the story and let the local people who carry that story tell it, what, you know, what the place is, what it means. Yeah, so we were delayed a lot. You know, originally we were going to get the Uluru Earthless Gig show announced before they'd announced their national tour.
Yep.
But it just kept getting delayed until I finally got the ticks of approval. And then we, like, you know, the tour was already announced by then, and we, yeah.
So I'd heard a couple of people saying yesterday that was the first gig out here since Midnight Oil a long time ago. Is that a true fact, or?
They do like other kind of corporate-y shows, you know, like Jessica Malboy, people like that. There's a show coming up in October. It's like
at the same site that we were at last night?
No, over in the national park, at the Sunrise, I think it's called, or Sunset viewing platform, something like that. Yeah, I think things do happen, but with our genre of music, definitely not something that they were, you know, super comfortable with. There was definitely like a lot of negotiating, and they, you know, the GM down here, David Harper, always said that he had heard really good things, and a lot of his staff, you know, are fans of Blacken, and so it was special to be trusted, you know, like that, and to come down here, and, you know, and that they, you know, another good supporter was Stephen Baldwin over at the parks. He's the manager of the national park, and he really got it, and, you know, saying, you know, you're not just some guy from interstate, you know, living in a capital trying to do something. Like, you're a local Central Australian person, and you get it, and yeah. So I think we ultimately, we're all in it for the right reasons.
And last night was fucking amazing. Like, it Divide and Dissolve playing at sunset. Well done on that curation, man. It was insane.
Cheers.
Definitely got to be the heaviest band that's played out in these lands, for sure.
Yeah, it was very very unsettling kind of mood, and the eeriness, and just the feeling, and you know, the way Takia speaks to, you know, First Nations issues. I just thought, man, what better way to kick it off, you know? And yeah.
So what kind of what goes into your sort of thought process, I suppose, when it comes to curating a Blacken lineup?
There's a lot to consider. It's like, I feel like a 3-day festival is almost like a spiritual journey for people.
Yep.
You know, it's like you're coming out there on a Friday, bringing the internalized matrix of, you know, the capitalist world that we exist in out there with you. You know, you're trying to tie up all your, you know, emails and your phone calls before you head out, and you're off signal, and you know, you got to make sure your bills are paid and blah, blah, blah. And then you get there Friday night, and you're getting into it, and it's exciting, and everyone's arriving, and like, there's these, you know, energetic peaks and troughs throughout the weekend. And I think, like, thinking about that long journey across the 72 hours is really important. Like, I really want people to go out there and just, like, be surprised, and, like, you know, set it up that you leave your assumptions at the door, because, you know, this isn't what you're expecting. So when they get there, we like to do something that's a bit more left field, and then that kind of makes them go, oh, right. And then it opens their mind a bit, and then we go boom and kick the bubble, you know, kick the adrenaline up and put something epic on. And then this year that was Terminal Sleep.
Yep.
And, you know, Mulgabore Hard Rock opened it up with this, you know, they're just amazing young people that I've been working with as well, and really unified the crowd, and, you know, played Crazy Train, you know, bringing everybody together. And and then Friday night, just this year we just took it dark and grim. You know, it went down that path with like leading into a water.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's just a level of intensity that then when the sun rises and you wake up in that country for the first time on Saturday morning, you know,
After
that's
the cleansing
that moment.
black metal fire of bed at bedtime.
Exactly, yeah. And then Saturday morning, it's like, look around and see where you are. And like every day I wake up out there, you can't believe how lucky we are to put that show on in that place. You know,
I have to say my biggest surprise of the festival for me was Fate gear. I'd seen the logo on the flyer and I just kind of assumed that there must have been some Australian band from somewhere that I regional or something that I hadn't heard of before or whatever. Yeah. And then, all of a sudden it's like there's 3 or 4 kawaii Japanese metal girls on stage doing synchronized headbanging and like power metal. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it was pretty special.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah, just like mind blown by the quality of bands and like.
How did you get in touch with them? Because like obviously they just came all the way here just for one show, right?
They did a little tour around it.
Oh really?
Yeah, they were here for 5 nights. They played 4 shows.
Wow.
They did Melbourne, Sydney, and Brizzy, but it was all possible because
Can you chuck us that water? Sorry, man.
For sure. Yeah, it was all possible because they, played Blacken. They just their manager, or tour manager maybe. From Germany just reached out quite a while back, and I'm up for it. It sounded great, and and then you find all these pieces, and it's like, how do you arrange them in the fabric of the big tapestry of the weekend? And a band like Earthless, like they're so hypnotic and transcendent, and so to watch them. It's like where does that fit in the weekend, and like that sunset period around on Saturday in the very middle of the festival, like very kind of auspicious time when the sun goes down and the darkness is creeping in. It's like that alchemy of the light and the dark. That's when we do the Aranda ceremony that the TOs will come out and sing and the young fellas will dance, and really I think that really like just stirs a lot for people, that that vibration. So
yeah, I think as I was telling you months ago, Run has played a handful of sort of all-day Australian metal fests at this point, and I've found by the time our set happened, it was like at other festivals, it just kind of, the energy wasn't quite right for us, and it's a bit of a drag. But when we played at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, it was just props to your curation, I suppose. It just like landed perfectly, had a huge crowd response, felt great. So I think you did a really good job with that.
Pleasure, man. And I feel like you've been such a huge part of this story in your own way. And I've known you as a friend and a fellow performer. And obviously at first when you reached out, or when I heard that you were coming up for Black, and I think I reached out to you back in 2013, and I was a little bit intimidated, like, guy with a national profile, coming out here. What am I going to say? I'll just rope him into something. Like, see if he's up there emceeing, and then,
I was completely a fish out of water.
Yeah, totally. And man. So it's like, I feel like, I relate to your art, and I relate to you as a human, and I know that, when I put someone on in those moments, that they'll speak to what that moment means. And I feel like you get it like that. So it was beautiful to see a crowd going nuts at that time.
Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah.
It's the last time I was thinking about the last time I played Blacken with Colossus. It was it's a funny story actually, because I think you wanted us to play, and then I wasn't sure, because I was waiting to hear back from Thy Art Is Murder about whether or not I was going to be going on tour filling in for them. And then they said, like, I think it was a couple months out from the festival or something, like, no, we got a guy over here in the States, don't worry about it. So then you chucked us on and came over, played it, and it was like after being on hold for months, Colossus was suddenly back on, and then we get back home to Melbourne, and 2 days later it was like, hey, do you have a current passport? And then fucked off to America, and Colossus imploded for me again, and
Yeah, big stories.
Funny, all these what's the word I'm looking for? Serendipitous little stories for me with Blacken.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's how we kind of relate. Don't sound like a hippie on your podcast or anything, but yeah, there's this auspicious level of just synchronicity, and you know, like just chatting to so many people over this weekend just reconfirms that people start, you know, telling me about the dreams that they've had leading up to it, and feeling this country kind of speaking to them, or feeling, you know, the spirit of this place speaking to them before they come. And you know, I was having amazing chats with Izzy from Earthless about such things.
Yeah.
And, you know, and just how sometimes it feels like there's something else working through us, and the way we put our art out there is this expression of this universal energy. This, you know, comes out from the, you know, infinite void of, you know, intelligence, expression, the way the universe wants to be seen and heard, and it spreads globally, and we can have these crazy connections. You know, I'm sitting in my mate's bedroom, you know, listening to that band one day, and now he's over here, and like, you know, it's trippy for all of us.
Yeah. So what happens now? It was advertised as potentially the last Blacken.
Yeah.
Where's your head at?
I just try to, you know, keep it real when I'm, you know, I find the promotion game funny. I've never considered myself a promoter. It's everything I've done has always just been a necessary means to, the next step of whatever it is I feel compelled that I need to express.
Yep.
And, you know, it wasn't a selling point. It wasn't me trying to go, you know, guilt trip people into coming. I'm just being honest. Like,
yep.
Doing festivals out here is ridiculously challenging. Like, we're in Central Australia, we're being extorted by the airlines. Like, there's no sense behind why it costs, you know, twice as much to fly from Brizzy to Alice as it does to cross the entire country and go from Brizzy to Perth. Like,
yeah.
It's ridiculous, and like they've got to pull their fucking heads in, you know. And to bring the amount of bands out here that we do and cover the costs of the production, you know, the costs and the logistics of getting everybody out to this remote site where we're running everything off generator power, and we're, you know, coordinating buses, and like, and now we're bringing all these international artists in, and like, you know, it's crazy the amount of, you know, risk that is involved in what we do.
Yeah.
Not just financial risk, but the actual anything can go wrong, and it could jeopardize anything. It's like I'm sitting here now feeling like, fuck, that was pretty bloody smooth, man.
Got through it.
Yeah, totally. And like, huge credit to the team that have been around me, that are friends, family, and just colleagues. And like, you know, none of them are colleagues per se. Like, it's all my relationships are based on, you know, the humanness, and, you know, I don't want to work with anybody that can't see me eye to eye. And, you know, yeah, massive credit to them. Like,
everyone involved is doing it for the love of it.
Yeah, so I'm not going to single a single name out right now, because I don't want it to feel exclusionary. Like, you all know who you are, and I fucking love you and appreciate you all so much, and thank you for trusting me. And yeah, like, we did it as a fucking community, and as a family, and, you know, as a Australian community of people coming together. Like, amazing. Like,
yeah, second that. Well done, everybody.
Totally. Yeah, just as far as the question, what's next, the future, like, the last Blacken I did in 2022, you know, I dropped the ball a bit. I was running on empty. It was another miracle that we got through it, and I was burning the candle at both ends for months, and I had a massive crash at the end of it, you know.
Yeah.
Basically, as soon as it was over, next day I was asleep under a fucking table crying, you know, blah, blah, blah. Just took me years to recover my nervous system and pay off the debt of doing it. I've always, you know, I've always paid every fucking bill, you know, every person that I've made.
And you've never made a cent.
And I've never made $1 on it. And I'm not about that. Like, I don't care about that. But when I've poured all that work into it, and then I'm continuing to have to pay something off for years following, that's too much punishment. Then I can endure.
I understand that, man.
And so that was kind of that was my hesitation to ever doing it again after that one, and, you know, and it really, like, as much positivity as it brings, and as much as I believe in it, it's like, what's the sacrifice, and what am I giving up on my own life, on my own relationships, and that was where, that was the context coming into this one. And some circumstances arise in the last few years, like Bloodduster finally, started talking to me about doing it after 10 years of begging. We did get a little bit of funding, we got some support from Revive Live, federal funding. And, some dates became available in the September period, and I was happy with that. And so decided, there's some signs there. We'll give it another go. And this year just completely surprised me in terms of like the cohesion of the team and how supported I felt in the last few months, and how smooth the event went. Like we've finally gotten to a point where, at the very least I can fly my favourite people to Central Australia and catch up and work on something, huge together. And so it feels different this time. I feel like every Blacken's an endpoint.
You are exhausted, but you are not a shell like you were previously.
Exactly, yeah. I really tried to have some through care and think about what's going to come next. That'll be a little bit of a break and a decompression for sure. Pay all the invoices and settle everything and all that. But I'll just say that there won't be a Blacken in 2026, but I'm open to it being in 2027.
Yeah, perfect.
And everybody that's come up to me this weekend and, offered their support. I want, if it ever happens again, I'll bring, 50 people. If you can do it again, I'm there. I'm volunteering. I work in events. I can help you this way. I can help you that way. Like, reach out. I want to collaborate and make it bigger than it's ever been if we do it again.
Yeah, I do want to say, because people always say, like, every time I come up here, they're like, fuck yeah, that looks so sick. I'm going to come next time. Like, amazing. And then they never do. Well, half of them never do. Some of them do, but most of the people that say that looks so sick, like, I'm going to go next time, and then they don't make that commitment. But
totally.
I implore you to make that commitment if you do this again, Pirate. And you've got to come and check this out. It is the most unique. I said it at the very first one. Most unique festival I have ever been to, and I think every year I've come, it just gets even more and more unique. This year has obviously topped it by far.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like just seeing all the expression from so many individuals, it
must get a bit overwhelming.
It's going to take a long time to process. I just look back this weekend and like there's so much colour and excitement, and there's so many emotions and so many peaks, and like I'm just it's a lot.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Because obviously, with my work and where I work, it's not like that. It's like, okay, we do the accounting after the tour or the festival or whatever, and move on. Did it make money? Did it lose money? Like, move on to what can we do to help it make more money? If it didn't make any money next time, move on to the next thing. And you still have those important kind of really meaningful moments with it, but nothing like what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I had this massive winter grind of logistics and admin that was killing me. It's like, going, why do I do this again? Like, I'm struggling with my mental health. I'm missing out on my community. I'm just here feeling disconnected. And then it comes together in some kind of that, and I feel more connected than ever, and more seen and more, grateful. And so it's an interesting dichotomy for the rock and roll world.
It's funny, isn't it? It's all just rock and roll at the end of the day. But here we are. Look at where fucking rock and roll has taken us.
There we go, brother.
Insane.
Well, thank you, man. And thanks for all of your support over the years.
My pleasure, Pirate. Thank you for having us. Big love, brother.
You too, brother.
I'll see you at the next Blacken.
We'll see when that happens, when it's ready, brother.
Yeah. I have a feeling it will be ready eventually. Just putting that out there.
So the universe tells you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, bro.
Kalamora.
Thanks for listening to Music Is My Life. This podcast is self-produced by me, Lachlan Watt. I'd like to thank Audio-Technica Australia for providing the high-quality equipment that has made this possible, as well as Patrick Galvin at Hollowbone Studio for the design. The killer theme music that you are currently hearing was written by the legends TJ Cowgill and Sam Saljuki. Catch you in the next episode.